Objection handling, turning no's into yeses on calls. Why objection handling decides your outbound ROI. Objection handling on cold calls isn't about overcoming people. It's about staying useful in the first 20 to 30 seconds of resistance, long enough to earn the next question. In B2B outbound, most prospects aren't rejecting your product. They're rejecting the interruption, the timing, or the vagueness of your opening. When your team treats every no as a dead end, you don't have a lead volume problem, you have a conversation retention problem. Cold calling still works when it's disciplined. Cognism reported an average meeting booked from conversation rate of 4.82%, and the teams that perform above average do it by tightening relevance and handling objections consistently, not by pitching harder. That's why the best cold calling services sound calm and curious, even when the prospect is rushed, skeptical, or abrupt. Persistence matters more than most teams admit. Research commonly cited in sales follow-up analysis shows 60% of customers say no 4 times before a yes, and around 80% of sales require 5 or more touches. Yet 44% of reps stop after 1 follow-up. If you want predictable pipeline, your SDRs need a system for what to do after the first and fourth objection. What objections really mean on B2B cold calls. Most cold call objections are compressed messages, not final verdicts. I'm busy usually means this isn't compelling yet. Not interested often means I don't understand what this is. And send me an email can mean I don't want to decide live. If your cold calling team hears these as rejection, they'll respond defensively and accelerate the prospect's exit. Cognism's analysis of cold calls highlighted recurring objections like I'm busy, not interested, wrong person, and send me an email, which should immediately tell leaders something important. The objection is predictable. Predictable means trainable, coachable, and scriptable. Exactly what a high-performing SDR agency or outbound sales agency builds into playbooks so reps aren't improvising under pressure. A common mistake is treating every objection like a debate to win. In reality, the goal is simply to earn a next step that matches the stage. A clarifying question, permission for a 10-minute follow-up, or confirmation you're speaking with the right stakeholder. When your reps aim for small, logical advances instead of a full pitch, your conversion rate improves without sounding pushy. The mindset shift from rebuttals to discovery. Top performers don't combat objections, they use them as prompts to ask better questions. Conversation intelligence guidance often points to a strong talk-to-listen balance of roughly 40 to 60, because buyers reveal the real blocker when they feel heard. If your reps respond to resistance with longer explanations, you'll see talk time climb and outcomes drop. The most practical coaching cue we use is simple: slow down, acknowledge, then ask one smart question. That single question is where objections turn into signal. Budget becomes priority, timing becomes competing initiatives, and not interested becomes we already have a vendor. Curiosity is the fastest route to relevance, especially in B2B cold calling where the prospect's context matters more than your features. Another common mistake is confusing persistence with pressure. Being professionally persistent means you earn the right to continue by staying specific and respectful, not by repeating the pitch. Your reps should know that multiple touches are normal, but they also need clean exit criteria so they can disqualify quickly when there's a true constraint and focus energy where deals can actually move. 2 simple frameworks SDRs can use under pressure. Frameworks work because they reduce cognitive load. When a prospect pushes back, your rep's job is not to invent the perfect line, it's to run a repeatable sequence that keeps the conversation moving. In our campaigns at SalesHive, we treat objection handling like a process. Acknowledge what you heard, ask a clarifying question, then advance to a next step that fits the prospect's reality. The best frameworks are short enough to remember mid-call. Layer, listen, acknowledge, explore, respond, is great when you need to diagnose what's behind the pushback. While AAA, acknowledge, ask, advance, is ideal when you need speed and structure on high-volume cold call services. Either way, enforce a discipline. No objection response should run longer than 20 to 30 seconds without returning control to the prospect with a question. Use the table below to standardize what good looks like across your team, especially if you hire SDRs quickly or run sales outsourcing with multiple callers. Consistency is what turns a few talented cold callers into an accountable system a sales development agency can scale. Objections aren't roadblocks, they're directions, if you listen long enough to read the sign. Turning the most common no's into productive next steps. Start by training for what happens most. I'm busy is usually a timing objection, so the win is permission for a tighter reapproach. Acknowledge the interruption and ask for a micro slot, like, should I take 15 seconds to say why I called and you tell me if it's worth a follow-up? The mistake here is begging for time without offering a clear reason it will be worth it. Not interested is often a relevance objection. Your best move is to explore with an either-or question that reveals whether they have a solution, a priority gap, or a misunderstanding of what you do. When the rep argues, you should be interested, the prospect defends their position. When the rep diagnoses, is it because you're set with a vendor or because it's not a priority? The prospect clarifies, and clarity creates options. Send me an email and wrong person are where teams leak pipeline. If they say email, agree and immediately ask what would be most useful, then advance with a calendar anchor so it doesn't disappear into an inbox. If they say wrong person, treat it like a routing task and ask who owns it and whether that person is the economic buyer or the day-to-day operator. This is also where multi-channel matters. Pairing B2B cold calling services with a cold email agency motion can turn email me into a tracked sequence rather than a hopeful one-off. Coaching that actually improves objection handling. Coaching fails when it's generic. If you want measurable improvement, record calls where legal and compliant, tag objection moments, and coach from real examples instead of hypothetical role plays. The fastest teams we work with build a weekly rhythm. Review a small set of calls, identify the objection type, and rewrite one response so the rep has a cleaner next time line that still sounds like them. A common mistake is only reviewing bad calls. You should also isolate wins and make them teachable. What question unlocked the truth? What phrasing earned the extra 30 seconds? And how the rep advanced to a meeting without sounding needy. Over time, this creates a shared language across the cold calling team, so performance isn't dependent on a few naturally gifted talkers. Keep score in a way that ties directly to skill. Instead of only tracking meetings, track objection outcomes. Percent of busy objections that turn into a scheduled follow-up, percent of send an email that converts into a calendar invite, and percent of wrong person that yields a correct referral. This is especially important for SDR agencies and outsourced sales team models because it gives you leading indicators before pipeline shows up. Scaling follow-up without sounding pushy. Objection handling doesn't end when the call ends. Most deals are won in sequencing. If 80% of sales require 5 or more touches and too many reps still stop after one, your system needs to make smart persistence the default through tasks, templates, and reminders. The goal is not to pester. It's to be consistently useful with a clear reason for each touch, new insight, relevant case study, sharper question, or a time-bound check-in. This is where channel coordination creates leverage. When a prospect says, send me an email, your follow-up should reflect what happened on the call, not a generic brochure. When they say, timing, your next touch should reference the specific window they gave you. Teams running sales outsourcing, or B2B sales outsourcing often outperform in-house teams here because the process is engineered. List building services, call notes, and email personalization operate as one system instead of three disconnected motions. AI can help, but only if it's grounded in call reality. At SalesHive, our AI-powered tooling, including email personalization driven by call context, helps our reps preempt repeat objections by referencing what the prospect already told us: budget cycles, priorities, stakeholders, and timing. Whether you build this internally or partner with a B2B sales agency, the rule stays the same. Your follow-up should feel like the next logical step in a conversation, not a restart. In-house versus outsourced, choosing the fastest path to objection mastery. If you have strong managers, enough call volume, and the patience to iterate, building objection handling in-house can work well. The trade-off is time. You'll spend weeks building scripts, calibrating messaging, recruiting, and coaching. Then you'll repeat that cycle every time you hire SDRs. Many teams underestimate how much of objection handling is not training, but ongoing quality control and continuous testing across thousands of conversations. If speed and consistency matter more, a specialized SDR agency or cold calling agency can be the shortcut, especially when you need clean data, reliable output, and a repeatable system. Since 2016, we've booked 100,000 plus meetings for 1,500 plus B2B clients by running objection handling like an engineering problem. Tested openers, industry playbooks, call analytics, and coaching loops that get sharper every week. That operational muscle is hard to replicate quickly if outbound isn't your core competency. Your next step is simple. Pick one framework, layer or AAA. Define success metrics for the top objections and commit to coaching from real calls for the next 30 days. If you don't have the infrastructure to do that reliably, partnering with an outsourced sales team can help you launch with discipline from day one, while your internal team focuses on closing. Either way, the teams that win aren't the ones who hear fewer objections. They're the ones who know exactly what to do after each no.